Okay, so next slide. Okay, so this is just a rundown of what I wanted to chat with you all about today. I am super, super thrilled and amazed by the human body. So we're going to talk a little bit about the human body, and we're going to talk about why you need to change the way you think about health and wellness, because that's really where it starts. And then we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition, because we have to do that. And, a lot of people are confused about what to eat, right? What should I be eating? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? Should I be doing vegan? Should I be doing keto? Should I be doing paleo? Should I do the carnivore? Am I an omnivore? So there's so much confusion. So we're going to talk about some nutrition basics. We're going to talk about the idea that just because you've been diagnosed with a chronic illness or disease does not mean that you have to keep it. Okay, so we'll talk about that. And then, I definitely want us to reflect on some health challenges so that we can figure out ways that we can actually reverse them. And I say reverse because I actually mean reverse. Okay, I don't want to really manage your diabetes. I want to reverse it. Okay, so that's really what I'm about. And then I want to tell you about Sweet Tonda. She's one of our ladies in our wellness plan who has done remarkably well. So we'll chat about her, and then we'll leave some resources on the screen for you. Okay, next slide. So this slide sometimes takes people aback because I have the word autopsy on there. And I have the word autopsy on there because I wanted to share with you how when I was in medical school, one of the things we had to do was observe an autopsy, okay? And one of the autopsies that I observed was of a man who was 35 years old. He was an avid cyclist, very healthy, ate very well, and unfortunately, he had a bike accident. And in so doing, ended up severing his spinal cord, and he died instantly. And when I saw the actual autopsy, it was very, very sad, of course. And I noticed, though, that the body, the inside of the body, the colors were amazing. So when I looked at his lungs, now remember, this is a healthy guy. When I looked at his lungs, they were the color. I don't know if they still make it even, but growing up, I used to chew bazooka bubble gum. So that pink bubble gum, that's the color of his lungs. He did not have any black tar, or he didn't have any of that. It was just sheer pink and beautiful. The liver was a rich burgundy. The spleen was pink. The gallbladder was a deep green. And the omentum, which is kind of a layer of fat cells, it's a layer of cells, including fat cells. It drapes underneath your stomach, and it kind of helps to protect our internal organs. It was bright yellow. And so I was just so amazed at how magnificently and divinely designed we are. And it made me think to myself, wow, the human body is fabulous. It's amazing. And so we want to do what we need to do in order to keep it running and working efficiently. Okay, next slide. Thank you. So this is just to say, hey, listen, we are amazing. We start out with 2 cells, right? Sperm and the egg, and here we are, okay? It's just amazing that even these cells that we can't even see with our natural eyes come together, and next thing you know, you have a human person. So I like to tell people about this because I want people to understand that our body is not just a body. It's amazing! Exclamation point. And so we want to do things to keep it strong and vital and healthy. Next slide, please. Okay. I always like to start out by giving more information about how amazing our human body is. And so I wanted to start out with the heart. Okay, so the heart beats about 100,000 to 115,000 times per day. And if you look at the course of a lifetime, that's about 3 billion beats. And when you think about it, you're actually not thinking about it, right? So your heart is beating without you thinking about it. It pumps about 2,000 gallons of blood daily. And this is what is so amazing to me. There are about 60,000 1,000 miles of blood vessels in our bodies. And when you look at the circumference of the Earth, which is over 24,000 miles, according to NASA, that means that if we laid out your blood vessels in a line, it could circle the globe twice, actually a little bit more than twice. So all of that is within us. Now, the heart has its own electrical impulse, okay? And it actually starts out in the SA node, which is in the top right chamber of the heart, which is the right atrium. And that initiates the electrical impulse. And the electrical impulse causes the heart to beat, as long as it has an adequate supply of oxygen, of course. And the heart starts beating 4 weeks after conception and doesn't stop until death. So the key thing with the heart is that it's doing its thing. It's doing its thing, and all we have to do is provide our body with the nutrition and the movement and the sleep, so that our heart remains well and strong and healthy. Okay, next. Okay, the lungs, I mentioned the lungs in the autopsy talk, but I really just wanted to give you some key nuggets and gems about how amazing our lungs are. They can float on water because of the air that's within them. The lungs, when they are unfolded, and people don't believe this, but it's true, when they are unfolded and expanded out to their fullest size, they are roughly the size of a tennis court. And I can tell you that when I was observing the autopsy and they removed the lungs from the body, the lung capacity, it was encased, of course, in the rib cage in the body. But when it was removed from the body and they filled it with formaldehyde, it expanded. I'm trying to show you, it expanded to this wide. So the capacity of the human lung is amazing. Now, when you breathe, 70% of waste is eliminated in the form of gases like carbon dioxide, and the capacity of an adult lung is approximately 4 to 6 liters, okay? And let's see, even if you exhale really hard, you still have a little bit over a liter of air remaining in your lungs. Again, why am I telling you this? I don't want to have an anatomy class, but I want to just remind you how amazing your body is. What's on the bottom says that we don't have to think about breathing because there's a part of our brain that says breathe, inhale, exhale. And so that's really, really important. Okay, next slide. All right, so the brain. When I tell people that 60% of the human brain is made of fat, they almost get a little excited. But I am not talking about honey buns and powdered donuts, okay? I'm talking about healthy fats that we want to nourish our brain with, right? So walnuts and avocados. So these are important things that when we eat them, it affects our brain. A lot of people have a disconnect between food and health. Sometimes people just don't think that food makes that much of a difference, but the reality is it does. Your brain is comprised of about 75 to 80% water, which is why I'm always telling people, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. And that's one of the best and easiest things that we can do to not have Alzheimer's disease as we age, is to keep our brain hydrated. Okay, that's super important. The brain's storage capacity is virtually unlimited. We have 86 billion neurons. So neurons are the actual cells that are in the brain, okay? And each neuron connects to other neurons, okay, which totals about 1 quadrillion connections, okay? Brain information travels up to 268 miles an hour. So if you look at your brain, I have a picture of the brain. The brain, and that's the picture of an actual brain, there's blood vessels throughout, and then you have the cells of the brain, and electrochemical impulses are coursing through the brain all day, every day, okay? So when I say that brain information travels, that's actually what I mean. Like it's traveling from cell to cell, from neuron to neuron throughout your brain constantly. Now, this is something that people used to say. They used to say, oh, we're only using 10% of our brain. Actually, we're not. We're using all of it. Our brain is amazing, and we're using all of it. The fact that people were saying we're only using 10%, it's a myth. Okay. Now, there are some people who are using more of their brain, okay, than others, but the capacity of the brain that we use, 100%. And this is amazing as well. A piece of brain tissue the size of a grain of sand contains about 100,000 neurons, that's the cells, and 1 billion synapses. So we are so amazingly designed. And again, these slides are just to give you more information about how wonderful the human body is. And then the last note that I have for the brain is that the human brain can generate about 23 watts of power, which is enough to illuminate a light bulb. All right, next slide. Okay, the blood. So thank you. The blood is amazing. So when we think of the blood is coursing through our body, okay? It's being pumped by the heart and it goes through the vessels throughout our body. And the blood in the body is about 1.325 gallons, okay? Makes up about 7 to 8% of our body weight. And about 95% of the blood cells are produced in the bone marrow. Okay, so again, we're continually producing blood cells. Red blood cells circulate for about 4 months, platelets, which are involved in clotting, for about 9 days. And when I say clotting, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I was younger, I like played sports and I liked climbing trees and doing all those things. So sometimes, you'd scrape your knee. And the reason that you didn't continue to bleed is because in the blood, there are clotting factors and platelets, and then a scab forms so that area can heal. Okay, so platelets for about 9 days, and white blood cells, which are part of our immune system, are about, they range from a few hours to several days in the body. And let's see here, this next point, this is really important. I just wanted to mention to you guys that the importance of the sun. The sun is super, super, super amazing. It actually, okay, when it comes onto our skin, not only does it help create vitamin D in our bodies, okay, it helps to cause the levels of nitric oxide in the blood to increase. And as a result, it lowers blood pressure. So I'm always telling people, listen, you have to get some sun. Now, you don't have to stay in the sun during the peak hours all day, every day, okay? But you do need to be out in the sun. You can be out in the morning, you can be out in the afternoon, in the evenings. We all need the sun. So that's super important. And then I thought this was pretty cool. A blood cell makes a complete circuit of your body in less than 30 seconds. So if you're tracking one blood cell in your body, it goes through your body in 30 seconds, it's gone through your whole body. And a newborn baby, a precious newborn baby, has about 1 cup of blood in their system. All right, 1 cup. Yes, Wendy, 1 cup. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so now I wanted to talk about the eyes. I know, Sharina, I know, right? So I specifically wanted to put an eyeball on the screen because so often we're just looking at what we can see. But your eye really is an eyeball, and that's actually what it looks like. And attached to the back of the eyeball is the optic nerve, which is attached to your brain. So I said on here that you actually see with your brain and not your eyes. And that's because when the image comes in as light is present, it goes through the optic nerve and the brain processes it. And then it lets you know what actually it is that you are seeing. So fun fact, you'll blink approximately 4.2 million times in a single year. And let's see, I have here, our eyes function like a camera, but that's incorrect. We need to say the camera functions like our eyes because our eyes came first. I am not a photographer, so I can't give you the specifics about the camera and its workings, but I know that it's modeled after how our eye functions. Okay, so a blink is typically 100 to 150 milliseconds. And I thought this was pretty cool. If you lined up all the eyelashes that are shed during a human life, it would measure 98 feet long. I unfortunately don't have long eyelashes, although I wish I did. So mascara is my friend. But somehow the men in my life, like my dad, my brother, my husband, they all have long eyelashes. I don't think it's fair. But anyway, let's see here. Only 1/6 of the human eyeball is exposed. And then I had here, we use fingerprints for identification, right? And we use them because they have 40 unique characteristics. Well, the iris, it has 256, okay? When I say the iris, I'm talking about the colored part of our eye, okay? And actually, people think that when you're in a dark room, it is the pupil, which is the black dot, that increases and gets bigger. But actually, you know what's getting less prominent? It's your iris. So your iris, which is the colored part of the eye, it, it retreats. And then you can see a larger black hole, which is the pupil, in order to let more light in. So I added that part about the retina because I thought it was pretty cool because, retina scans are becoming much more popular. Okay, next slide. We're going to talk about some changes. Okay, so this is why you must change. This is why I must change. This is why we all must change the way we think about health and wellness. I am a very simple person. I like things to be very, very simple. And it is simple. Health and wellness is simple. I went through all of those things about the blood, about the heart, about the lungs, about the brain, to show you how intricate and complexly designed we are. However, the maintenance of our bodies is simple. So we have to change the way we think about health and wellness because it really is simple. It's simple to take care of the body. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I wanted to introduce you guys to Tanda. Tanda is a beautiful young lady. She's 56, and she came to me for our wellness program with multiple medical issues. She was dealing with obesity, diabetes, chronic pain, reflux, arthritis, atrial fibrillation. Atrial fibrillation is when the two top chambers of the heart, the atria, they don't contract the way they should. So they just kind of do this number. And as a result, it increases the amount or the risk, I should say, of blood clotting. And that clot can go to the brain and cause a stroke. So that's why atrial fibrillation is not good. We don't want that. So she was dealing with that. She was dealing with depression, chronic pain. I said that she was dealing with high blood pressure, and she also had a history of breast cancer. That's what the H/O-BRCA stands for. She had a history of breast cancer, which was treated with traditional methods, including chemotherapy. All right, so this is Tanda. I wanted to introduce you to her. And we're going to come back to her a little bit later, but I wanted to say, this is Tanda. This is what she came to me with. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I just couldn't get away from doing this. I just put a couple of slides in here about food and how amazing it is that some foods look like the actual organs and cells that they help and improve. So as you can see here at the top left, we have carrots, okay? So you also see a picture of an eye, and you can see the resemblance. You can see the resemblance. So carrots are rich in beta carotene, and your body and my body, we convert beta carotene to vitamin A, and that improves our eyesight. It's very good for our eyes. It nourishes our eye cells. And I'm going to tell you that I personally don't wear glasses. I don't wear contacts. I have great vision. And a few years ago, I started drinking carrot juice every day. And within a couple of weeks, I'm going to tell you that even though my vision is really, really good, it was almost as if there was a film that was peeled back from my eyes, and it looked like I was seeing things in HD, right? So it was amazing. Oh, yes, salads with carrots and kidney beans. Yes. Salads are our friends, okay? Salads are our friends. Thank you, Sharina. And so I just was thinking to myself then, I was like, oh my gosh. So everybody who is dealing with any eye situation, you need to be eating carrots. Okay, you need to be eating carrots. You need to be drinking carrot juice because it's super, super healthy for your eyes. And yes, kids, yeah, they love these sorts of slides because they can actually see it and they love it. They love it. And then the kidney bean, of course, looks like the kidney, okay? And the wonderful thing about the kidney bean is that it's really high in fiber, it's high in minerals, it's high in vitamin B12, all of which are wonderful for our kidneys. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is the last slide I think I have on this, but you see the sweet potatoes, and I'm going to ask real quick because I see you guys are in the chat. Do you guys know what the organ is that's next to the slide of potatoes, sweet potatoes? If you do, just type it in. Do, 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 do. I'm checking. Good guess, not quite. Good guess, guys. Gallbladder, spleen. Good guess, guys, not quite. The liver, good guess, Denise, not quite. Keep it coming. Pancreas. Yes, absolutely, Sharina. The pancreas. It's the pancreas, okay? So the pancreas is responsible for a couple of things, well, many things, but two main things. One is that it secretes digestive enzymes. So when we eat food, the pancreas secretes digestive enzymes so that that can help break down and process the food. And then it also secretes insulin, okay? It secretes insulin. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, let's see, let me look at my time. Okay, I'm going to actually talk about it right now. So people who have diabetes type 2, okay, they have what is called insulin insensitivity, okay? So if you have your cell and then you eat food, it's broken down into glucose. So now the glucose is in the bloodstream, okay? But the glucose does not need to be in the bloodstream. It needs to be in the cell so that it can cause the cell to have energy to do the work that the cell needs to do, okay? So when you eat and the glucose is in the bloodstream being carried to all of the cells, your pancreas says, oh, time for me to secrete some insulin. So your pancreas secretes the insulin. When the insulin is in the bloodstream, it attaches to the cell. This is a simplistic representation, but it'll do the job. It attaches to the cell, and then some reactions occur in the cell, and then another part of the cell opens up. So it's like a door, and then the glucose that's in the blood goes into the cell, okay? So that's the way it's supposed to happen. But if your cell is insensitive to the insulin, when the insulin comes to the cell, it doesn't open up the door so that the glucose can come in. So the glucose stays in the blood. And that's when you have high blood glucose, which diabetes, right? If your blood glucose level is super high, your kidney comes into effect and it says, oh my gosh, I've got to get rid of some of this glucose. So then it tries to get it sent out through the urine. And that is why a person with diabetes may have glucose in their urine. Glucose in the urine is not normal, okay? The glucose should be in the blood, getting to the cells, and then the cells should be able to use the glucose to do the work, okay? So many people are insensitive to insulin now. And so the glucose can't get into the cell, stays in the blood, and sugar in the blood over long periods of time is very detrimental to the nerves as well, which is why people who have diabetes sometimes lose their limbs. They may lose their eyesight because the nerve has been damaged, and so they can't feel things, and they get an abrasion or a cut or a wound, and it doesn't heal. And then for the eye, the optic nerve, which causes us to see, unfortunately becomes, it's toxic in the blood because of all the sugar, and it damages the optic nerve. And so then blindness becomes an issue for people with diabetes. And so that's something really, really important to think about. But yes, that is the pancreas, and it secretes the insulin to get the glucose that we eat from our food into our cells. That was a very long-winded explanation, but I thought it was important to say because so many people are plagued with diabetes today. Type 1 diabetes is different in that the pancreas does not secrete insulin at all. So it doesn't secrete insulin because the cells that used to secrete insulin are damaged or are not there. So as a result, they have to use exogenous insulin and take insulin shots. That's diabetes type 1. Okay, so the last picture that I have here is a tomato, and you can see that it looks a little bit like the chambers of the heart. And tomatoes, as many of you may know, are really high in lycopene. It's an antioxidant, and it's really, really good for heart health and helping to lower the numbers of free radicals and cholesterol. Okay, all right, next slide, please. Okay, nutrition basics. This is what I wanted to convey to you all. Okay, so let's see. Fresh is best. We need to eat foods that are minimally processed, and we need to eat what we were designed to eat. Okay, so this is really, really it. This is simple. As I said before, the body is very divinely and complexly designed. However, the maintenance of it is simple. Okay, I know there are 80,000 voices out there. Do this, do this, do this. The maintenance of the human body is simple. Eat fresh food, that's best. Okay, if you have to do frozen, okay. If you have to do canned in glass would be better. And if you have to do canned food for right now, then canned food, okay. But I'm telling you, fresh is best. That is what you need, because what is in fresh food are enzymes. And that's where the health really gets restored and your cells can turn over quickly and you can stay youthful. So fresh is best, minimally processed, okay? Minimally processed foods, okay? And eating what we were designed to eat. And I have here, nothing that we could ever create is better than what God initially intended for our bodies. So I want us to remember that. Next slide, please. Okay, so what should we be eating? Okay, what should we be eating? Fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. If you choose to eat meat, not too much, not too often. That's it. Simple. Fruits, vegetables, grains, if you can tolerate them, legumes, which are beans, peas, chickpeas, lentils, nuts, if you're not allergic, and seeds. And if you choose to eat meat, not too much, not too often. That's it. It's simple. So when I was younger, I liked to eat 3 things all the time. Yes, Brenda Smith, yes. Genesis 1:29, the God-given diet. Easy, easy as pie. When I was younger, however, I used to love 3 things. Oatmeal cream pies, Twizzlers. Yeah, oatmeal cream pies, Twizzlers, and Snickers bars. And I was out of control. So I had to rein myself in. But Snickers bars, oatmeal cream pies, right? Those are not fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. So we have to really examine what we're doing to our bodies on a day-to-day basis, keep it simple, and take it from there. Okay, so listen, I'm plant-powered, okay? I am plant-powered, Dr. Shelia. Now, one of the things that I gave up meat in general, and then I continued to eat fish, mainly salmon, which was my favorite. I was a salmon-aholic. Every time I went out to eat, that's all I got. Any type of fish that I cooked at home, that's all I ate. And then I ultimately gave up salmon, okay? We can talk a little bit more about this, but the waters are not great, right? And a lot of the seafood nowadays have extremely high levels of mercury. So I really don't recommend seafood. Me personally, I don't. But again, I am like this. You all are adults. You can do what you want. I'm just telling you what I think is best. If you are dealing with a chronic health condition, then this is me saying this. Fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. Okay? All right? Fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. If you are dealing with a condition, if you're totally healthy and you want to include certain other foods, the wilds, thank you. See, I just saw a note about some wild salmon or wild seafood. Yes, that is better. So if you are going to eat seafood, wild Alaskan salmon is better, okay? If you're going to eat seafood, do not eat farm-raised salmon. That sounds really healthy, but it's not. It's not. They crowd the fish into these banks in these fish farms, and they don't feed them what fish normally eat. So I don't recommend farm-raised fish at all. If you're going to consume fish and maybe salmon, then yes, wild caught is best. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I have on here just a bunch of chronic diseases, diabetes, arthritis, lupus. Thank you, Gail. Yes, farm raised is pumped with coloring, so we don't want it in our body. You know, when I first saw farm raised, I was like, oh, interesting. And then I did my research and I was like, oh, no, we're not doing that. But does it have to stay? Just because you've been diagnosed with a chronic illness, does it have to stay? That's the question. And the answer is no, it does not. Next slide. Okay, so let me zoom through these last few slides because the time has rushed away from me. Nutrition, fitness, sleep, I say manage stress, but I really don't want to manage stress. Let's bust it. We have to have stress buffers. We have to have stress busters. We don't want the stress. Unless you're being followed by a bear, okay? You don't want your levels of cortisol and epinephrine and norepinephrine to rise so much and stay risen, okay? For moments of intensity like that, yes, the body was designed to say, oh my gosh, I'm being followed by a bear. And then you secrete those hormones. And then when you get to safety, then your body's like, okay, we're out of danger. And then the hormones go down. But stress, chronic stress, elevates the hormones and keeps them elevated, and that wears down the body. And oh, I see Stephanie. Stephanie, that's a great book. Yes, I read that book, Dr. Michael Greger, and it's a great book, How Not to Die. Thank you for mentioning that. And excuse me, when we are chronically stressed, then it wears down the immune system. And what does that do? That opens the door for lots of diseases. Okay, next slide. Okay, so remember Tanda, if it entered, it can exit, okay? It can enter, it can, if it entered, it can exit. Some of the things that Tanda texted me, this is just the beginning. I'm doing great, no meat or dairy in 10 days. My cardiologist cut my blood pressure, medication, and insulin in half. I don't hurt everywhere anymore. I just can't believe it. My AFib is very slight right now. She went from having atrial fibrillation 61% of the time to 2% of the time. And then she texted me one day, oh my gosh, I just made mac and cheese out of chickpea noodles with sauce made out of mashed potatoes, carrots, cashews, nutritional yeast, and spices. It's so good. And she said, this was, I think, about 3 to 4 weeks later, I lost 18 pounds. I can work all day, all in 3 weeks. My lymphedema is much softer. Stopped taking reflux medications and my hair stopped coming out. It's amazing. Okay, so Tanda is doing fabulous. And I will say this about Tanda. Tanda is a beautiful, beautiful person. And Tanda, when she got the plan that I created and crafted for her, she just did the plan step by step. And we've just been rolling along ever since. Next slide. Okay, so I just wanted to say here, you know, these are some documentaries that are worth watching. What the Health, The Game Changers, The Invisible Vegan, Diet Fiction, Forks Over Knives, Super Size Me, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. So you can snapshot that if you want to. Excuse me, a lot of these are on Netflix or Amazon Prime. Some are on YouTube, but you'll be able to find them. And next slide. T&G Wellness. Okay, so my husband and I have a mental health practice called the Neal Group. We're in Winston-Salem, and we just opened